Hi guys, just doing a forward to the full-length build video. This is the finished product. In fact, this is the finished product plus 3D printed oars, because I don't like these plywood ones. I actually broke one on the build. But yeah, finished product. It appears to work. That's running off the supercapacitor. The original supercapacitor appears to be a Duff one, so I've changed it out anyway. And the biggest problem in the build is about 10 minutes into the build, my microphone dies, which some people might say is a good thing, to have a bit of peace and quiet. But that means that the hour-and-a-quarter long video, most of it has got no sound on it. So I expect I don't know what I'll do actually. I'll have to put music over it or something, but I'll have to do a bit of a voiceover on the bits that I wanted to bring to your attention. Main problem was identifying which screws and nuts and bolts to use on the way through, because the instructions are in Chinese. At the end of the video, you'll see I've done the instructions and had them interpreted online, so you can look at the instructions in English if you want to. But yeah, that's the forward. It's a long video, hour-and-a-quarter long at least. You may have seen the video where I've assembled this little kit, solar rowing boat. I've done a few modifications to it as well, because the cam here was split. So I've 3D printed another one. I've actually 3D printed a couple more in there. So I want to change that one as well, because that one's a little bit split. It runs anyway, it's just the split is spreading and sometimes it catches as it turns. Anyway, that little fellow works fine. The story is, I wanted to buy that and I couldn't find it on sale anywhere. So on eBay, I spotted this one and bought it. And then after I'd ordered that one, I did find somewhere that was selling that. So we'll see if we can assemble this one. Looks like the instructions are all in Chinese. But I don't think it's going to be particularly difficult, he says, hopefully. "27 steps. Okay, we'll see how we get on. I'll put the instructions down. Probably a good idea to put this on the floor as well, out the way. This one's actually made from foam, so it won't sink. Is that actually stuck together already? Yes, it is. That other little one, I'm a bit worried that if it capsizes, it will sink like a stone. Right, yeah, they've done 2 layers there. They've stuck them together with something, but they're slightly out of alignment, which is a shame. Right. Step 1 is that fella. Let's put that bit of foam on the floor. Interesting. So gonna need those pieces. Looks like all of them as well. Looks like 2 of them on there, 2 of them on there, and that one on top. Is there any sandpaper? No, there's no sandpaper there. Right, so those are going to go on there with some screws through. I would think it's those screws. Just going by the colour of them and the length. Screwdriver supplied. Hands in the way, isn't it? Sorry about that. In fact, camera could come down a little bit, couldn't it? All right. Okay. Step 1. Step 2. That'll be these pieces. So big piece first, then a smaller piece. Right, and they sit in there. Ah, right, okay, in that picture, that shows nuts and bolts on the bottom. Well, it can't be those ones. They're not long enough to go down through there. Those are long enough, but there's no nuts to go on them. Unless those nuts... Okay. We have a bit of an identity problem at the moment. And from the looks of it, those go on the bottom of there to stop them popping out. But that picture definitely shows nuts and bolts, and we don't appear to have nuts and bolts that long. We've got long bolts there. Let's just see if a couple of these orange ones... Yeah, they will go on there tight. Right, from here on, the wireless microphone switched itself off. So I will try and do a voiceover where it's relevant. So this is where I find out I must have used the wrong screws for that first bit. Because we need 10 to put these bits on. We haven't got 10 left because I've used 4 of them for the row locks. So that's what I'm actually saying there. I do get it sorted eventually. I'm getting this bit right. It's those little green plastic bits. And then the screws through the holes to lock it all in place. I should think you could probably have glued all them in place anyway. Still trying to identify which screws to use for the row locks. The laser cuttings worked well. I'd struggle to get the bits out, but they're neatly cut. That's some plastic pillars that go up in the middle later on. I'm just going to get a magnet to hold all the nuts and bolts together. Stop them falling off the table. Still moaning about the different nuts and bolts and screws. That bit there is to help you push the various pieces in place. I don't realise that until quite a bit later. Yeah, moaning again, because there's nothing there telling you which screws you're supposed to use to hold those white pillars in place. Eventually it becomes clear because there's only a particular size that will grip. But for now, I'm just saying that's where it's going to go. I don't know which screws. They're actually black screws and they're the largest diameter out of the lot. Right, this is the gearbox that we're going to put together. And that piece is the on-off switch, or at least it holds the on-off switch. Gearbox is fairly simple. It's only 2 gears. The smaller shaft is the smaller gear. Then we need 2 orange spacers on either side of it. There's also the fatter black screws in there, which are the ones for holding those white plastic pillars in place. I'm pretty sure that lump of wood with the holes in it are actually for getting the spacing right for the gears, but I don't realise that. So I align it by eye. So I say it is only 2 gears, so it's not terribly complicated. But it's the space, those orange spacers, that I do have a bit of trouble getting them aligned right, and I'm sure that's what that lump of wood with the 4 or 5 holes in it is for. In fact, I think that's what the top right picture is showing you. Step 6. Yeah. I expect it tells you that you've got to get them aligned right. But as I don't read Chinese, I'm just using logic. That's step 10 we're doing just there. Those are the right screws. It is frustrating watching this over, trying to understand. With hindsight, it's obvious. I could just edit this out. Yeah, process of elimination, just working out which screws will go. We get there in the end. That's why it's such a long video. That little screwdriver they supplied breaks eventually. Right, this bit got me a little bit confused. As you can see, that's a worm gear, and yet the picture is showing an ordinary tooth gear. The worm gear is correct, but the picture is definitely wrong. Again, that piece of wood with all the holes in it is what I'm supposed to be using there to push that in place. Yeah, that is right. That's where it goes. But we can't put it there yet because we've got to put those plastic pillars in place. There's no clear wiring diagram to tell you how to wire it up. Yeah, trying the wrong screws. The screw that's in my hand is the one for the white plastic pillars. Right, and I've just worked out which screws are supposed to be on those row locks. So this is a bit of rework going back where we'd already been. And the screws that I've just taken out of the row locks, I can put on the whatever we call this bit. Sorry, my arm is in the way. I'm just undoing the screws that I'd put in before and replacing them with the correct ones. And for one more green washer thing. Oh dear, camera angle. Yep, they're the only screws that are big enough. Yep, screwdriver's broken. Well, believe it or not, we are actually making progress. Another spacer. Now we can put the motor in place. The other plastic spacer. And the on-off switch. I'm actually going to solder the wires in place. I think the idea is you just twist them in place, but I have a soldering iron handy, so I will do that when I've decided which screws I'm going to use to hold the switch in place. I've decided it's got to be a couple of those nuts and bolts, the small ones. We have plenty of them, it seems. I've soldered that up. So that is going to go across there. I've had to change screwdriver because the original broke. Next bit is definitely not clear. Probably have to use a translator to read what that says. I mean, there can't be much to it. If that's going to be going in there, that one's going to go in the other side. But where does that one go? It's got to go in there with that, surely. Yeah, I think that's what that is. That's... I could probably solder them together and push them in. That's what I'll do. And we actually had a bit of wireless microphone working then, but we're back to voiceover. There's a bit of sticky foam on the back of the solar panel, and it actually doesn't fit. It's stuck on top of one of the screws. That's why it rocks around. The diode we're going to put into that quick connector thing. And then what I'll do is I'll solder that black wire onto the leg of the diode. Soldering is done. So, from the motor, the black wire goes to the solar panel and then carries on to where the supercapacitor will be. The red wire comes from the motor, goes to the switch, and then becomes a black wire, which I've now soldered to that diode just before it goes into the supercapacitor. And the other end of the diode obviously goes to the solar panel. And what I'm actually saying there is the motor will run off the solar panel, and at the same time it will be charging up the supercapacitor. And then if we get a bit of a cloud or something, the motor will run off the supercapacitor. So it keeps it running, basically. Now, we've got these, yeah. Well, if you saw the beginning, that supercapacitor is dead. And it just causes me a lot of trouble when I try and get it working. Because it works off the solar panel, but as soon as I try and connect the supercapacitor in, it stops working. And it's not just that the supercapacitor is flat, so I've tried charging it directly, which is why we end up with a different supercapacitor. Now we've got to do the linkages. It really doesn't help when you can't actually understand which screws they're supposed to be using. It did make the job take quite a bit longer. And there's some little spring washers there that I think I should have put underneath the head of that screw. Those oars, they're very thin plywood. That's one of the little spring washers just there. Still trying to work things out. Get there in the end. Yeah, it all becomes clear if we look at stage 26. I'll edit a bit out here, I think. I'll get this bit done. Put one of those spring washers under the head of the screw there. I think that helps lock it in place. this was quite fiddly. Getting things to align. There we are. We've finally got an oar in place. Got to put the nuts on the back of those black screws. So this is exactly the same as the other side. So I edited some of that out to save us a bit of time. Not that it makes much difference. It's been a very long video so far. Well, in the excitement of getting that sorted out, I managed to break one of the oars. So that wasn't good. There is a spare oar anyway, but what I do is I just super glue it back together. Super glued back together with the supercapacitor disconnected, and it works. I'm just telling you, I've put candle wax on those wooden bearings there to loosen it up. Now, as soon as I put that supercapacitor in place, everything stops. Now, I would expect that to happen up to a point because the supercapacitor has to charge up. But I tried directly charging the supercapacitor and it didn't take charge. Yeah, I think that was a Duff supercapacitor. I've just put another supercapacitor there. I've given it a bit of a charge. And if I connect it up, away we go. Whereas if I do the same with that one, which I've given a bit of charge, or at least tried to, nothing happens at all. So I think, unfortunately, that was a Duff supercapacitor. That one I'm putting in there at the moment, that's a 10 farad. I mean, it ought to go for ages on that once it's fully charged. So, quick summary, it works. It was a real pain trying to assemble it without English instructions. And I still think I will go ahead and 3D print some oars because those have got no strength at all. And once they get wet, they're going to start peeling apart, I should think.
Hey, thanks for watching. There's plenty of videos on my main channel with more added daily, so don't forget to subscribe and enable the notifications to keep you up to date with my new releases. You can help keep my channel running by donating $1 on Patreon to buy me coffee. You can always find more information in the video description. Thanks again for watching.